Mr. Martin, can you hear me? The room is really dark. You might want to.
I can, sir. Let me try and find out if I can. I think I need to turn some lights on.
Okay, all right. Just give me a hint.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You want to be co-host?
Yeah, that way I can share the screen for the notes, okay?
All right, sir. I will do that.
Thank you. Mr. Martin, is there a way we could put a message on the board for people to use their full name?
Which one is that, sir?
I was asking, is there a way to put a message on the screen to ask people who want to be admitted that they need to use their full name?
Yeah. Yeah, they are right now. So, you can hear me, right, Mr. Maldonado?
Yes.
Yeah. The notification was put on the district website. Actually, we can probably request everyone to write their full names or to rename themselves, or be what do you call this? Be at risk of getting removed from the meeting.
Okay, so
So if you would like for us not to accept those with their names not, you know what I mean? Those with
what I'll do is um, I can rename those people.
to please
Yeah, so like
please
there's one
rename. Yeah.
with Lexi. I'm just renaming it. Please add your full name. Okay.
All right. That will do. That will probably do, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Mr. Maldonado,
Yes.
um, currently everyone else is muted aside from yourself, me, and Mr. Perez. And the protocol will be for those who want to speak to raise their hands
Yes. That's
for them
great.
to
Yeah.
be unmuted. So we don't want everyone to be what do you call this, speaking at the same time, and so raising hands will be our protocol.
Okay. I'll make sure I cover that when we cover the norms.
And you should see those who will be raising their hands too at your end.
Okay. Sounds good.
Hey, Vance. Mr. Lee. Steve, can you hear me? Is it coming in pretty clear?
Yes, perfect. It's very good.
It might be his system.
Our camera's a little blurry.
Hello, Mr. Perez.
Hello. We're having to be careful on the unmuting.
Okay.
Mr. Lee should be okay now.
Mr. Lee, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you really well.
Thank you.
So to those who are still logging on, we're asking that you please use your full name rather than the name of your device or just your first or last name. Please log in with your full name.
It's 3 o'clock now. We're going to wait just a couple of more minutes as people are logging in still.
So for those of you who are just joining us and are still entering the room, please enter your full name in your participant list. I have marked some of those who don't have full your full name. As the meeting progresses, we're going to remove those who do not have their full name on their identification. So please go back and take a look at your profile and add your full name for us, please. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. There's some of you that have been waiting quite a while. It's about 7 minutes after 3. And I know everybody has probably worked all day, and I'm sure have lots of things to do this evening. So those of you who don't know me, my name is Max Pettis, superintendent. I think I've probably spoken to just about every one of you on this meeting in one way or another throughout the last few months or last year or so. So we're going to present to you several pieces of information. I don't have to set the context. I think we're all very aware that we're in the middle of a pandemic. We pretty much shut down the whole, not only the schools, but it feels like we shut down the whole world in around March, mid-March. Since that time, we have immediately jumped on to doing what we need to do for students. Number one, I was proud at the beginning that the team got together and began delivering meals almost immediately, just a few days after the closed shutdown. And I think we're one of the first to have some of the ideas to get out there as far as delivering from buses. So that's where it all began. So to bring it all to today, we've had a team of people that have worked really hard. They put in a lot of days, a lot of hours, a lot of effort into thinking through this. There's been a lot of planning. There's been a lot of obstacles, a lot of challenges, as you all have had as well. It's unprecedented. We have had to make decisions that we never thought we would have to make before. We have had to think through things in a way that we had never thought before. Most of us were trained in our roles as educators. We were not trained as medical professionals. We were not trained on how to build towers out in the mountains for better internet service, or how to lay fiber, or how to respond to all of these new situations that we have in front of us. So I have to say that I appreciate the team that's been involved and planning these things out. In no way is it ever finished. Each day we're learning more. The learning has been, our learning curve has been enormous. Learning something each day, even as time goes by. Today, we have in that team, we've had to do not only make a plan because we know that's what we had to do, and to make it good for our students and for our staff, with safety being first. We've also had to comply and live within the parameters of our authorities, New Mexico Public Education Department, Governor. There are Center for Disease Control, New Mexico Department of Health, our local health officials. It's just been a variety and numerous people that we've had to work with throughout the last several months. But I wanted to, in my thank you, I just want to say I'm very, very happy and very proud to be part of a group, a community that is so committed to the welfare of not only the students, but the health and safety of the staff out there. We just this week, as we get, we've been trying to keep everybody updated with the things that have been going on. This week we met with several stakeholder groups, and we thought that this afternoon we can have a town hall type of a virtual meeting to make sure that everybody out there gets the information about where we're at. And we also want to hear from everyone. We have a lot of people on this meeting right now, so we're probably not going to get to hear from everyone. We'll try and get, if there's questions, we'll try and get to as many as we can. But Mr. Maldonado will explain the process of getting some feedback. If we don't get to it today, we'll definitely take it. We're all ears. We like to hear what people are thinking and feeling because I don't believe there's anybody in the state or in the nation that has all the answers to all of this. We do know a whole lot more than we did a few months ago, but as I said, we're still learning about different aspects of this new world. We like to be optimistic. It seems like you'll see the results of some surveys. We do try to keep a pulse on what the community is feeling, thinking in general. And then we've got to take all of this data, everything that we're collecting, all of our discussions, all of the thoughts in the best way we can to the school board, and then provide them with enough information so they can make a careful, thoughtful, informed decision on October 6th. That's this coming Tuesday, 5:30. That's when the board will make a decision. And I'll go through how, as you'll see, when we go through the presentation, you'll see the proposals that we will be bringing forth to the school board. Now, the parts that we're presenting today, it doesn't include every single detail. We do have our reentry plan, a more comprehensive plan on the website. And then there are a lot of additional aspects to this. The school sites, for example, are now working on school site protocols that are lined up with the district plan. And the principals and the teachers, staff at the school sites are working very hard to make sure that the buildings are prepared, the rooms are prepared. We're going to treat things safely, carefully. If the decision is made to bring students back, we will try to make sure that we've thought of every possible situation. And I'll tell you what, we can't answer all of the what ifs. Every time we turn around, again, there's numerous and variety of questions about what if this and what that. Well, sometimes it's a case by case. And so what we learned so far is that every case that we talk about, think about, engage with has a slightly different twist to it. So we have to be agile, but we remain thoughtful and we're going to remain careful. And we do realize that on either side, whether we are remaining total remote or whether we bring some of the students back, there are consequences and benefits of either side of that. We know that we want to be really careful with the virus. We also know that there's dangers in our students' mental health, well-being, and staying at home. So we've had many, many discussions about that. We don't know exactly how everybody feels, but we have talked about that and have thought about both sides of how we can benefit and how we can have risks on either side of the decision. So at the board meeting Tuesday, we talked about a lot of the issues and a lot of the problems in an open work session. And I ended that meeting by reminding everyone that we also have a lot to celebrate. We have a lot of hardworking staff, teachers, principals out there that are definitely experiencing problems with, it's not the perfect world by any means, but we're also experiencing some successes. And I do see, as in the classrooms that I visited, I do see some happy students, and I do see some very engaged teachers. And I do see the energy there for all of us wanting to make it the best that we can with what we have. So I just like to put the positive side on it too. As we move through this, considering the vast amount of challenges, the vast amount of unknowns that we've had to resolve, I think we're working together. And we're working together not only as a district team, but I'm feeling that we're working together as a community. And that is so important. I don't think any one of us, any one group could make it through this in a good way without us talking to each other, working together, and coming up with the best possible solution. As I've said before, there is not going to be a perfect answer, but working together, we're going to find the best possible answer to each of these issues and scenarios. So without further ado, I'd like to move into the presentation. And as we start this, we'll have Mr. Maldonado will share some of the protocols and processes for how we will operate through this meeting. So today is October 1st, and we still believe that our mission is every student, every day, building for life, building a person for life, and our goals remain the same. We still are going to move forward. We want to keep our expectations, no matter what model and mode of delivery we are in, we must keep our expectations high. We must keep our focus, and we must keep our goals. And our mode of delivery has changed, but we have not.
Well, I'd like to welcome everyone today. We're so very glad that you joined us for this presentation. The purpose today is to share some relevant information with everyone so that you have the best information possible. We want to inform you about the preparedness and the response plans that have been made by the district so far. We also want to collect and document input from our stakeholders, and certainly you're one of our most important group of stakeholders, so we do want to hear from you. And all of this is in preparation of putting together a proposal for the Grantsville County School District to consider at their October 6th board meeting. So that's why we're here today. In order to facilitate this discussion, we do have a few norms or some things that we're asking everyone to take heed and be mindful of. That is that we want everything said here to be done in a professional and respectful manner, that we really do want to remain solution focused. We're counting on you to give us some information so that we can work towards solutions to accommodate students in this public health emergency. Everything we say and do, we want to promote a productive outcome here and maintain positive intentions. Just remember, we understand that everyone has a voice and we want to hear that. So in order to facilitate that, there's a few things that we have in place for this large group. Number one, if you want to remain in the session, you need to, on your profile, you need to include your full name. If you have the name of a device or only part of your name, after we finish with, as the presentation goes through, you will be removed from the meeting, and in order to get back in, you're going to have to provide your full name. So I've flagged those folks who I think need to add their name, so please do so. And then as we get further on at the end of the presentation, we'll be asking for comments. There's a little button on your on your Zoom that you can raise your hand. It'll put a flag up for someone to call and wait for you to be called on. We do want to hear from everyone. And be cognizant of time and limit repeating previous items. The good thing about this, we'll be taking notes in full time, in real time rather, so you'll be able to see some of the questions that come up and some of the answers, so you'll be able to see that as we move on. But again, we're very glad to have you here.
Okay, so getting right into the basis of all this. After all the work over the last several months, it's boiled down to two different areas. First one is very clear, and it's what we're doing now. Basically, is the option that you see on the screen is that district will continue on a 100% virtual model throughout the remainder of the semester. New quarter starts October 19th, so we thought if there is a decision, it'd be that would be a good pivotal point to get the change started on that day. That's one. Now the second one, I'll talk about just a little bit more. The GCCS district will move into a hybrid model. And we've talked about this hybrid model since March, April of this year. And I'll just remind everybody or present to everyone what that looks like generally. So hybrid model is grades pre-K through 6. And make it clear the reason why it is pre-K through 6 is very simple, is that's the only grades that we're allowed to make any moves with at this time. We do not have permission to bring the secondary students in yet, grades 7 through 12. So the hybrid model would move pre-K through 6 students into the schools, and a 50% model through the remainder of the semester through the second quarter. So I want to talk about that just a minute. So when we say 50% hybrid model, some people that I've talked to have gotten a little bit confused about that. No, it does not mean we bring half of our students in and then the other half don't get an opportunity. What it means is that with the 50% model, the way that we've built it and planned it, is that means 50%, let's call it group A, could come in Monday, Tuesday. 50% group B could come in on Thursday, Friday, and have Wednesday for sanitizing the classrooms. They use it for intervention, use it for makeup testing, just the variety of needs that we will have through this. So, and it's very important to know that no matter what direction we go, parents, families always have the option to remain virtual, whether we don't choose the total virtual model. Parents can still choose that. And they will continue to receive work. Now, the other part to this is, I like to think of it as a reverse kind of a model, as we've been talking about it and discussing. And by that, I mean, we're not, if the board chooses the hybrid model, that doesn't mean that we're asking, forcing, requesting, pressuring the parents to bring those students in at that model. What it does mean is that we are going to be ready to receive and service those students in that hybrid model. So this puts a little bit more of the decision-making on the side of the family. We are here to provide the education, and which is our obligation and our legal responsibility to provide, and that's what we want to do, and that's why we work here, to provide a quality education. Now, the other part I want to be very clear about is those students, going back to the groups, if it is group A, that does not mean that they're off of the school the rest of the week by any means. Group A comes in Monday, Tuesday. That means that they go virtual for the remainder of that week. Group B, they're virtual for the first part of the week, and they'll be face-to-face on Thursday, Friday, those that choose to come to the school for that purpose. But no, please don't misinterpret. There's no days off for the students, as much as some of them would like to imagine. So we want to make it a full and a purposeful and a quality educational experience for the students, going back to keeping the high expectations. And we understand there are problems, and there will continue to be with our attendance is way lower than we like to see it. We still have some connectivity problems with some students. We still have to deliver packets, even with some students who would prefer to be connected, because the connectivity is just not there. Even though we're providing numerous jetpacks and other resources, the long-term fix is just not there. And that technology, we'll talk a little bit about that later. So this is just pulled out of our district reentry plan. If you want to look at it a little bit closer, way back in March and April, talked about, option A was the traditional classroom, online, and this is the 50% A, B option, and then there is some others that we talked about. Fully virtual is where we're at now. So that's just to give you an idea of how we've been talking about this since April, and it continues to evolve. Here's a sample of one of our schools' schedules, and just to give you an idea that our principals and our teachers are working on being proactive with the scheduling, the meals, the safety, and what teachers are going to teach where, and so on and so forth. One of the things that I know has come up a lot, and it's probably questions on because it's come up a lot in the last groups that we've talked to, is how in the world does a teacher teach with students on a screen, and then you have more students in class on the other side of the room? There's been a lot of discussion about that. It is tough. There's a couple of ways we can do it, and we're inviting creativity, and we are watching other schools and classrooms, and we're reading and researching. What we're seeing is that one of the options is bringing an EA in to work with the teacher, so that the teacher could tend to one group while the EA monitors the other group, and then they can switch. There's all different kinds of configurations like that could happen. Elementary teachers are very familiar with setting up stations. It'd be similar to that kind of a configuration. But one of our principals visited a district that has already started bringing in students at a hybrid model, and discussing with the teachers. Some of the teachers were finding that having the hybrid model was actually, they were appreciating it more than having the total virtual. And here's the reason that those people gave, is that when you have, this is a very simple example, if you have 20 students on a screen, you're in essence having to monitor 20 different environments. If you have 10 students on the screen, and then the other half of that class actually at the classroom in person, then you would have a less number of environments to tend to. You would have 10 on the screen, and then you would have the environment in which the teacher resides. So that's just one example of some of the conversations, but it very much talking about those types of things and those types of challenges.
So good afternoon, everyone. Renee Sanchez, Academic Services Director. The areas of focus in this remote learning plan continue to be delving deep into our high school senior plan, so that way they're ready for the next steps. Academic supports for all students pre-K through 12, And really importantly is social emotional supports as we delve into this learning platform, family and community communication. And with all this, we want to make sure we continue to reflect, monitor, and evaluate effectiveness of how we're doing in this remote learning plan. The academic remote learning model, we want to continue looking at our standard aligned learning system as we started in the traditional setting, continuing with a collaborative effort in our professional learning communities, delving deep into studying how students are doing in student work and other areas of standards, keeping up our academic expectations. And through our professional learning communities, we meet weekly in grade level teams. We want to keep monitoring progress and targeting skills and finding gaps so we can include our interventions. And along with our interventions, we want to do that continued work on assessment of learning. Moving on to technology.
Good afternoon, Raquel Whitebird, Technology Director. In support of remote learning and a need to remedy deficiencies in connectivity, the district has invested $2.3 million in purchasing hardware and services for students, educators, and community. The investment includes devices such as smartboards, Chromebooks, hotspots, cameras, and Wi-Fi in the parking lots of all of our schools. Continuing efforts are being made to increase internet options for all stakeholders throughout Cibola County. These options include both short and long-term solutions and consist of a diverse group of service providers and other partners. Our goal is to expand the coverage of their networks and improve signal strength of both wired and wireless service in our rural areas. We look forward to working with the various teams on these projects. Thank you.
I'd just like to make a mention about, she mentioned the parking lot access. I just want to make it clear that that was never expected to be a long-term solution. You know, you see students that are sitting by the schools or getting close where they can get the internet access. That was only intended to be a short-term solution. In no way did we ever expect the students to sit out in the parking lot for long periods of time, that kind of thing. It was more of a fix to have a place where families, students could go download information and then take it back home with them. And then of course the weather is going to be changing soon, and that changes the whole face of that.
Moving forward with academics, we want to make sure our teachers build their capacity in this new learning platform. Professional development using the Simple K-12 staff learning platform, going into teaching everyone introduction to Google Classroom, getting started with Google Classroom, understanding the Google Toolkit and all the variety of tools, learning to manage your classroom, and tools and strategies to go deeper into the Google Classroom. All this learning platform is meant to build teacher capacity so we can strengthen the academic remote learning plan. Student subgroups. Ms. Delise.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Delise Jones. I'm the Special Education Coordinator for the district. So for our student subgroups, and this includes all of our student subgroups, our teachers and instructional staff work tirelessly with all of the students to meet them where they are and to take them where they need to be according to standards. The special education support staff, the special ed teachers are operating as co-teachers in the regular education classrooms right now. They also provide individual and small group instruction when it is needed. All IEPs are being conducted remotely and on time. Additionally, we are completing referrals and determinations of eligibility. Diagnosticians and therapists are delivering services via Google Classroom, Zoom, and other platforms on a one-on-one basis or in small groups. And our main goal with the special education department is to maintain safety for everyone and to provide individual needs for each child with an IEP.
With that, we're looking at engagement, supervision, and attendance. Engagement, as we build teacher capacity, engagement in the Google Classroom strategies. Other areas, we're building strategies with SIOP, remote learning strategies as well. Supervision at home, how do we increase that? Right now, we're doing direct phone calls to families to increase our support, counselor support, and home visits. Attendance. Attendance is right now at a 19% absentee rate. So we're utilizing support from all of our community members and tribal affiliations along with Engage New Mexico. They've been supporting us as we submit student names that are even doing well and need a little bit more support to keep them motivated. And the Graduation Alliance, they're working with seniors and grades K through 11 in promoting that support, along with continued counselor support and daily phone calls at every site when students are not attending. Additional teacher training, engaging students. We keep talking about engagement, that collaborative and organization process. Google for early elementary and early learners. Another part of the big picture is introduction to the whole child, an initiative, and social emotional learning. We have quite a few on that. Social emotional learning for to help all learners. Diverse and inclusion, culturally responsive pedagogy. Understanding response to intervention, our multi-layered system of support and the tiers of learning process. The characteristics of giftedness, and the training just continues. It's going to be ongoing and mandatory for all teachers as we build our capacity.
Okay, so kind of switching to the safety aspects of this. Part of our obligation, responsibilities, and our work and how it's changed the last few months is we've had to take a look at our environment as far as the number of cases that are coming and going, what the status of our county is, how many cases and how close are they. One of the sites that we utilize regularly with live data, just to give you an example of one of the resources we use, is New Mexico Department of Health, where we can zero into our county and get the latest on 7.4 cases per 100,000, for example. And there's a lot more information in this site, number of cases in the state, and we could dig in even to zip codes and things like that. And this information is really important to us because it helps us make informed decisions. That is one example. Let me see if I can move back out of here. Can I close this? Here it is. Where am I at?
Go to the PowerPoint.
Oh, there it is. So Sonia, are you on? Can you tell us some more?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sonia Hernandez. I'm the Health Services Coordinator for the district. Our hospital updates, our hospital has 2 ventilators. So if anybody were to contract COVID, we have 2 vents that could take care of them. Our hospital also has a 25-bed capacity. The personal protective equipment, our district has provided PPE for all of our staff. Every single person in our district has personal protective equipment. This includes gloves, masks, hand sanitizers, tissue, face shields, thermometers, and gowns. Also, our district has provided and is going to provide for the middle school and the high school when they come back to school. But right now, they have provided 2 cloth masks for every student at the elementary sites. our contact tracing process, the way that is working at the present moment, if there's any staff member that they know of or any of that contracts is COVID positive, they're to let their supervisor know. The supervisor lets Mr. Pettis know. Mr. Pettis informs me. I then contact the State Department and also the Environmental Department. When I contact those places, Environmental Department, there's a 4-hour turnaround. The PED, there's 6 hours. We have that much time to let them know. They're at the school sites, there's our health personnel. There's a nurse at Grants High School. There's a nurse at Laguna Acoma Junior Senior High School. And all the other sites have a certified health assistant. Mr. Pettis?
Yes, and there's also, the state gives us some guidance through a state toolkit. We have a connection to that on our website, and that's just further direction and information that we follow. Gives us some guidelines and some support in various areas of the reentry. For example, gives us information on the type of HVAC and filtering systems we need to have. They give information on some of the protocols if there are cases that happen to take place. Guidance on playgrounds, for example. So there's a lot of information on there. Just another source of information that we continue to utilize. Sonia?
Thank you. Also, we have the rapid response protocols. I believe there is a slide on that also. This is what our district is following. So also, when I was referring to the employee, this is the action and how it is to be followed. Okay, we also are, the state is wanting us to do the surveillance testing. So for all the staff is to be COVID tested. 5% of the staff is going to be COVID tested weekly. We're going to do that. That selection will be done through a randomizer until a full cycle is accomplished. The cycle will be repeated after all employees have been tested through each round. So we're working with the New Mexico Department of Health, our local county department, and she is working with us, and we can have time slots on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And she's also working to try and get us Thursday afternoon from 3 to 5.
And this includes contractors, our ancillary staff, and some of our the folks that come and work on our facilities and HVAC systems and things like that. We're asking anybody who has connection to our buildings to have to be part of this cycle.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Barry Nodal, and I'm the transportation coordinator for the district. When we start back to school, we will be offering transportation. And we have a few new guidelines and procedures that we'll be following. Parents and guardians, first of all, will be asked to wait with their students at the bus stop. This will allow us to monitor social distancing a little bit, and also should a child present sick, we have a way to send them home immediately with their parent or guardian. When on the bus, face coverings will be worn at all times by the bus drivers, bus assistants, and the students. We will be seating no more than 2 students per seat, and students from the same household will be sitting together. And when possible, we will have an empty seat in between the groups of students. While the weather's warmer and weather permitting, the bus windows will be opened for increased ventilation. Also, while the buses are parked, we'll have the windows down during the day so that the airflow continues throughout the day. There's the next slide. We'll be sanitizing the buses daily with a spray disinfectant, and the drivers will be wiping down the seats and handrails and things after every route. So buses will be sanitized daily 2 to 3 times, depending on if they're doing a to and from route and meal delivery. Also, twice a week, we will be deep sanitizing the buses with a misting system, and that will be done by our shop personnel. Temperature checks will be done daily for drivers and assistants, and when the students board the bus, we'll be doing a temperature check as well. A couple of cost factors that we have to take into consideration is the transportation budget was cut by 5.5% by the state earlier this year. While that won't impact our transportation services, it is something we have to monitor closely. And while we're in the hybrid model, some of our staff will be asked to complete their to and from routes from the schools, as well as completing meal delivery, which makes a fuller day for those staff members. That's all.
Good afternoon. My name is Edwina Henneman. I'm the student nutrition coordinator for the district. As we continue through this process, we will continue distributing meals much as we have been doing currently. Kids will be grab and go, whether they're at school or picking up lunches curbside delivery, or we will also be delivering lunches on the buses, keeping safety in mind and keeping distance in mind when the students eat. That's why we will stay grab and go for sanitation purposes and for safety purposes for the students, but we will continue to provide services to students both at home and during the school day.
So you're muted. Mr. Lee?
I think he's still unable to.
Oh, okay, he got kicked off. He's coming in the room here.
Good afternoon. Sorry for that. I had some technical difficulties. But with regards to, my name is Vance Lee. I'm the Director of Facilities and Operations. With regards to facility readiness, we've devoted a great deal of effort since early April to work on this reentry plan and have it safe for students when they do return. The first thing and foremost, I think, for everybody is one of the most important tasks or activities that either staff or students can do is personal responsibility. And we believe the greatest impact in fighting this virus is proper social distancing, guarding from infectious particles, and most importantly, washing hands. These three activities will greatly decrease the chance that students and staff will remain free of the COVID virus. As far as distancing is concerned, in all of our buildings, we've developed a plan to ensure each classroom is physically organized in a manner whereby students will not sit within 6 feet of another student. In instances where large groups may congregate, such as a lunchroom, the principals are developing a plan to maintain social distancing requirements. When students are unable to sit in a classroom or another space greater than 6 feet apart, we're utilizing plexiglass dividers between students. Shields have also been installed at all school site office areas to offer protection of the students, staffs, and visitors. In the area of disinfecting, the district has purchased equipment. We've trained our custodial staff, and principals have scheduled opportunities within the week with regard to disinfecting all areas of the school site used by students, staff, and visitors. As Mr. Perez mentioned, one of our big concerns, and this is statewide, but definitely here in Grants, air filtration. And we're currently working closely with the New Mexico PED, air quality sampling contractors, and HVAC contractors to develop a sound, logical, and effective plan to ensure each space in all buildings maintain healthy air quality levels. With regard to our COVID operational response procedures, there's four areas of this. The first being remediation. The district is developing a plan to ensure that staff and students are not showing symptoms of COVID prior to entering any school facility. The second area is identification and response. Once in the school building, it's important that any instance of identifying COVID-19 symptoms, we identify those swiftly, and we react upon them with efficiency, effectiveness, and dignity for the individual that's affected or any others in the area. The district has developed a flow chart to offer guidance for all staff and administration with regards to identification and response strategies. The third area is communication. Along with reacting appropriately to instances, it's critical that appropriate communication is practiced. This being led by our superintendent, and he is the point of contact for all instances of COVID-related situations. The district we've developed a communications plan to work in conjunction with the identification and response plan. And the last thing is recovery. It's imperative that a school maintains operations and continues providing quality instruction during an event. These critical areas include quarantine, disinfecting affected areas, and return of the individuals to school. The district plan addresses all of these areas of this incredibly sensitive and crucial situation that we're in right now. You would have noticed as I was talking, the 3 slides are showing, one is an office area with its shields. The other 2 are areas, they're classrooms where the teacher has aligned the desks in a manner that are practicing safe distancing. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Reyes Jaramillo, Assistant Principal at Mesa View. When it comes to school site entry procedures, every school has established site-specific procedures on how staff and students will enter the buildings with limited entry points. This will ensure that everyone entering a school building will be temperature screened prior to entering the building. Schools will also be limiting parent and guardian access into the buildings. This will include not allowing parents and guardians past the front office areas and having the parents and guardians schedule prior appointments and pre-approved visits. Any student or staff member presenting elevated temperatures or showing symptoms of COVID will be sent to the school's queue room, and then steps will be taken to send the kid home. Lastly, all students and staff members entering the building may be subjected to a COVID screening questionnaire. This is just an additional tool that each site will utilize to help protect their students and staff.
So as far as a district-wide enrollment update, right now we currently have 3,227 students enrolled with 413 Caucasian, 1,292 Hispanic, 1,481 Native American and other. Looking at our membership currently, comparing it to 2018-19 to 2021, our enrollment has gone down, and it's shifted due to a variety of reasons throughout the year. Our current decrease has been from 3,409 to right now 3,244. So that will impact the next steps.
And the decrease, I have to say, is fairly common, and it's been going on through different districts, many districts throughout the state. It's been on a trajectory downward, about approximately 80 students per year, but this year it's gone to, I believe, 165 is the number that the number of students that we've So it's been a more significant decrease, and we suspect that it's because of this pandemic.
Good afternoon, Steve Maldonado. I'm the Director of Finance for the district. As you can imagine, the enrollment drives our operational budget. So I wanted to share with you our original projection that we submitted to the Public Education Department included a membership or enrollment of 3,349. Our running average in the past 6-7 weeks has been 3,244. So you can see there's a difference of 105 from our original projection, 105 students. On the right side of that screen on the top there, the unit value, which is used to calculate how much money the district receives, was originally 4,558. They reduced it to 4,565, which is a change of a negative $192. So here's how this works. The state provides us with what's called a state equalization guarantee, or a SEG, for operations. Every month they provide us with a deposit to the bank for the amount to cover operations for the district. Our original SEG was a guarantee was 33 million. This is the first part, $33,718,000. Then the state takes back 75% of this impact aid money grant that was just for districts that are heavily impacted by non-tax revenue generating areas such as Native American pueblos, military bases, things like that. However, the district takes back from our allocation $2 million, leaving us with a total original SEG, or state equalization guarantee, of $31.6 million. In September, on the September 9th, they reduced that by $176,000, leaving a revised SEG of $31,503. This would be our guarantee if we had met the 3,349 enrollment projection. However, based on the 3,244, that lower projection, the revised SEG, or the revised allocation to the district, is now $30,515,000. So overall, that's a difference, or a decrease of almost $1 million, $987,000. So it's imperative that we do all that we can to make sure that everyone who should be enrolled is enrolled, and that then once we we get our 40-day count, then we'll be able to adjust our budget accordingly. So far, with COVID-19 related expenses, these are direct expenses related to the public health emergency. In school year 1920, which ended June 30th of this year, we had already spent $1.1 million, almost 1.2, in COVID related expenses. Starting from July to date, from last week, we spent another 1.5 million for a grand total of $2.6 million. This comes straight out of operations for the district. Fortunately, the federal government provided us with an allocation from the CARES Act of $1.6 million, even though we haven't received that cash yet, which means that we are still funding, in addition to that CARES Act, another $1 million. So where did we spend that? We spent that on $212,000 on PPE. We spent, as Raquel said earlier, we spent $2.3 million on providing technology that allows the instructors and the students to navigate in this new environment, $2.3 million. We also spent $115,000 on additional instruction and instructional materials and training in order to help teachers navigate and teach in this new environment. And then all other expenses came out to about $49,500.
And looking at the device update, right now, devices by site, we're reaching closer to our goals to have a one-to-one device for every student. At this moment in time, every student has access to a device. However, they're still being distributed in some areas. 72% at Cubero Elementary are still working on that schedule, and we're reaching our goals, as you can see at Laguna Acoma High School and Grants High School and Early College, several 100% right there. Looking deeper at the device update, you can see again, the blue area is our district separated by site. So percent with devices is in the blue, a different visual, and the percent of tribes without devices is in the red. We utilize this support because we're leveraging supports from all our tribal affiliations and our communities to help with this support system. Looking at internet connectivity, you can see that our internet connectivity is improving quite a bit. Right now we have the total percent with internet separated by site, Cubero at 81%, and we have some areas at 100% connectivity. And you can see how it fluctuates by site, reaching mostly above 80%. And to sum it up, Chromebook and device access, 145 students are still awaiting their device, where 3,086 currently have a Chromebook or a device. And internet access, we're down to 217 students without internet access and 3,014 with internet access.
Good afternoon. I'm Delton Martin, Director for Student Support Services. The district conducted 2 sets of surveys, one a parent and community survey, another one a staff survey. It was posted on the website on 2 separate occasions, one in August and another one in September. With respect to the parent and community survey in August, 61.8% of our parent and community members prefer fully online, and 38.2% prefer some type of face-to-face. In September, the percentage of parents who prefer fully online went down to 53.3%, and the percentage of parents who prefer some type of face-to-face went up to 46.7%. With respect to the staff survey in August, 48.5% prefer fully online, and 51.5% prefer some type of face-to-face. And the same survey in September, the percentage of staff members who prefer fully online went up to 65%, and the percentage of staff that prefer some type of face-to-face went down to 35%.
Looking at the next survey we did with direct survey questionnaire, where principals set up a system to contact every family by telephone and asking them the questions, are you willing to return to school to the hybrid model as early as October? Teachers and principals again talk directly to all parents and families included in this survey. We surveyed over 2,323 families, and I believe that number is higher at this moment in time. As far as parent responses to yes in this survey, overall, we're seeing for the most part above 50%. Mount Taylor is at 48% and 36% at Cubero, showing a yes, wanting to return, where we see Blue Water at 72% wanting to return, and Grants High School at 55%. So it fluctuates. When you average everything all together, I'm not too much in math, but it averages a little bit above 58%. The questionnaire was also done with teachers. Principals call teachers into their office to have a conversation along with phone calls. And every teacher was asked a similar question or the same question. And at Grants High School, about 34% felt comfortable coming back. Mesa View, 70% felt comfortable coming back. And it fluctuates. And a lot of the purpose of them not wanting to come back has to do with the safety of the students, not the personal, that they're not feeling good coming back. So for example, Cebolleta was more concerned about the safety of the students. So those parents preferred to opt to show the uncomfortable of coming back for the fear of student safety.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you, team. Thank everyone for sharing. Now, at this point, we're going to try and capture as many comments as we can. So at this point, if you'll raise your hand, we will do our best to respond to the question or concern or comment.
We have
Do
the
I have
first
them
one.
here?
Yeah, you can click on that one, sir.
Miss Kincaid, I
Miss
think.
Kincaid, yeah. You can unmute.
Okay, Miss Kincaid, you're on.
Okay, thank you. So I had a question about the filtration issues at schools. I know that the public education department has said that there's certain guidelines which schools need to meet with regards to their filtration. How do we know if we're at a school that has those filtration issues?
Thank you for the question. Mr. Lee, I don't know if you're back on. He got kicked out during the meeting. Are you on to answer this? I think he still may be having some technology issues, but so Jennifer, what's been going on with the air filtration is the state is requiring a MERV 13 filter in all of the, originally with all of our HVAC systems. And then shortly after, we discovered that those MERV 13 filters are so dense that they actually would not produce the result that we wanted to. In addition, would actually harm the HVAC system in which they were placed. It's just trying to force air through a filter that would not take the air through it. So they, I think the state went back to the drawing board somewhat, and they're still in the midst of discussion where we have some of our HVAC systems that can handle a MERV 9 or 11 filter in their systems, and so on and so forth. The swamp coolers, which we have some swamp coolers in the district, don't require any kind of modification. You're bringing the fresh air into the building. So that being said, before we actually bring students in, that's one of the areas that will be checked. We do have contractors that are have been working for a couple of weeks on looking at each one of our HVAC systems and giving us quotes on what it would take to get these filters ordered. We wanted to make sure that we got on the ordering immediately because there's so many schools that are ordering filters that we wanted to make sure we got on before they ran out. So it's being addressed. There is not like a one final answer for every school. Every HVAC system is slightly different. But we, the last I heard is we were supposed to put the highest density filter in our systems that the HVAC system would handle. But we hope that that won't change much more because that's the track that we're on. And I hope that helps, Jennifer.
Mr. Lee's back one, sir.
Mr. Lee, you want to add to that?
I'm reading your answer here. Yeah, that's pretty fully answered. Our equipment is such that the MERV 13 filters will cause harm to the system. And the state's guidance in those cases, just like Mr. Perez said, in those instances, then we put the highest level of filter that we can put in those areas. And we have been working with our contractors and working with others to determine what what level of filter we can put into each of our HVAC compressor systems.
Okay, thank you. I'm not, I don't think I'm able to go in the order that hands are raised, but I'll try and get to as many as I can. Next, I'd like to ask Ms. Gay Simpkins. Let's see if she's on.
Okay, I'm here. Yes,
Okay.
I'm here. I just had to unmute myself. I know that grades 7 through 12 are not going to go back as hybrid model. However, there are teachers in the pre-K through 6 level that have excess of 500 students. And I personally have 500. I know that some other teacher has close to 900. I don't feel safe seeing that many children. That's like going into at least half the homes in grants. I don't feel safe. Also, what about teachers with at-risk conditions like, severe diabetes and respiratory problems like COPD, severities, severe asthma, going back into the classroom?
Okay, thank you for the question. I think you're talking about the high school area. I'm taking it.
No, I am not. I have 500 children. I'm a music teacher. I see 500 kids in a week.
Okay.
All pull-out teachers in those larger schools see anywhere from 400 to 500 kids in 1 week.
So I don't have the exact answer for the situation, but here's what's most likely to happen. If the board chooses to bring students back at the 100% model, based on the information that I'm seeing and the surveys and so on, I don't believe we're going to get even 50% of our students back to the classrooms.
Well, my point is even at 50%, I still have 250 kids.
Yeah.
Whereas a regular classroom teacher, if she has 20 to 25, I would feel safe with 20 to 25, but not 250.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. If you'll let me, so that brings it down to the half. From there, the school and you, I can't make a blanket rule for every school and every classroom and every situation. So that's going to be a conversation that you're going to have at the school with the principal, with the parents. One of the overriding rules of thumb is that we cannot bring students in that if we can't distance them at least 6 feet apart. There's another factor in it. As far as the number of students floating through, that's not going to be an issue only for you, but that will be an issue also for the high school teachers when they come in. And these are the kind of issues that no one that I know of has all the answers to. But it is a concern, and I think we need to continue planning that out. As I talk to the principals every week, we have to invite creativity. To answer the other part of your question, if there are staff that feel like they have underlying symptoms, health concerns, and that kind of thing, those are all going to be treated on a case-by-case through our human services department. So I hope that kind of answered the question. I know it does. It's not a complete exact answer, but that seems to be like the type of situations that we have to work through. First, I think it's going to be seeing how many students are actually going to come on board. This may even turn out to be the situation where that particular class is online for the most part, and then some of our most at risk or students most in need come to the school. So there's a variety of configurations and there's a variety of options that we will choose from. I don't like to look at it as a black and white, that you'll be faced with 500 students and that's it, period. There's going to be options that we need to think through and get creative with.
Well, I thank you so much just for addressing it. It makes me feel better.
Thank you. Let's see, we got that was Miss Alyssa Lucero.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank you guys for everything that you guys are doing because I cannot do your job. Second of all, my question is that if we do send our kids back to school, the way you guys have your seats set up, which are 6 feet apart, are they in that one classroom by them all day long, or do they rotate classes, especially like in the middle school and high school?
So Alyssa, once again, every school is going to have be slightly different. Well, one thing that we did learn early on is in this new world, keeping a student on a screen for multiple hours is not the best route to go. We're seeing fatigue, we're seeing frustration, and those types of things. At the school sites, I know the principals are discussing also how long can they keep a certain situation before, it can keep a student engaged before having to move them, move them in the classroom, move them from face-to-face to virtual or vice, there's again, different configurations. I do know that the principals are very aware and very concerned about the amount of time that students are on video. Of course, they've always been very concerned, teachers as well, about how long a student is sitting in a classroom, which has its set of frustrations as well. I'm not sure if I answered the question, Alyssa, and I'd be glad to if you ask a follow-up.
No, it's just my concern is that I'm one of those parents that this scares me. My kid is not a healthy child, and I'm one of the ones that would prefer him to stay at home because at least I know I can control the virus here at home. But if there are chances of them ever going back to school, I'm just concerned about if they're staying in one class all day long, or if they're going to be just moving classroom to classroom like they usually do.
Yeah. So yeah, and again, it'll be a little bit different, but I have to remind you, Ms. Lucero, you do have that option. And as a parent, you can keep your child on the total virtual remote model through the rest of this semester and through the rest of the school year, if you choose to do that.
It is for the rest of the school year, not just the semester.
Yeah, either or.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you guys so much.
Welcome. Next is Tara Bachelor. Tara Bachelor.
Can you hear me?
Is very, very low.
It's very low. I'm sorry.
I can hear you that you're speaking, but we can't make out what you're saying yet. Do you want us to, we can try and come back to you, Tara?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, let's go to Aaron Burks.
So my question would be for staff members that have been allowed to bring their kids into school. Now that they would, like in my instance, my child goes to school here at Blue Water and I work here. So if she was coming and then she's not part of that 50%, would she have to stay home, or is that going to be something left to the principal and if there's room?
That is thank you, Mr. Burke. That's one of our major overall problems is daycare that you're bringing up. We know that for a short-term fix, we've been allowing teachers to bring their children, in some cases, to the school until they find another way to handle that. That is not intended to be a long-term solution. We have been researching the daycare situation in the district. We've contacted every available licensed daycare. There are a few, they're all full. So that is definitely a problem with the daycare. And that's going to be on a school by school, case by case. And as you suggested, Mr. Burks, I think I'd start working with your principal first and see what you can come up with. And once again, we're inviting ideas. One of the things that I would advocate is that if we found a licensed daycare provider in grants, that we would be very willing, if we have the space, is to have them utilize one of our classrooms rent-free. Of course, they can, they conduct their business there. And we've got that approved by the state. So it's just a matter of finding those daycare providers and see if they're willing to provide those services at the respective schools. I hope that helps some.
It did. Thank you, Mr. Press.
Let's try Ms. Batchelor again.
I think she lowered her hand.
Where?
I think she lowered her hand.
Okay, she lowered her hand. Okay, let's go to Candace.
Do I have to say who I am?
Yeah.
Candace Gonzalez. I think you're on mute.
Okay, sorry. And this is actually Lisa Prendergast. I'm viewing with Candace Gonzalez. I have a question about, again, with you said the coronavirus task force has recommended that we take measures to protect high-risk teachers. And I know you said that was going to be handled on an individual basis. But how are we going to make sure that all of our staff is protected? I just saw a poll this morning that cited that 25% of all teachers in the United States are at increased risk to COVID-19. So if we fall in line with the national totals, that would be a quarter of our teachers.
Yes, and we're keeping an eye on all of those, all of that data. All I can do is assure you that, as was stated by our nurse director, that all of the, we're providing all of the PPE available to us in the best way that we can, following all procedures. I think in a lot of cases, we're going above and beyond the minimum protective guidance. After that, I think it's it's our new world, and as I started out the presentation, there's risks on both sides. There's a risk of our students staying home, that some people will argue, and there's also a risk of coming to the school sites for both students and staff. So it's not, it's unprecedented. It's not what any of us prefer, but in what we are doing with what we have, we're doing everything we possibly can to keep everyone safe. And I hope that helps some.
Thank you.
Lee Du Bois.
Okay, sorry, I was having trouble unmuting myself. It isn't so much a question as, well, sort of a comment. I work with youth in 4-H and we were doing a COVID training, and one of the things we cannot do is share equipment. This is sort of going back to Gay's question about, having so many students. And I don't know if the public education department is the same. So this, you may be able to answer this, or you may have to research, is that you can only have as many students in person as you have sets of equipment. So, if you only have X number of, we'll say 30 recorders, once she's done those 30 recorders, they're going to have to be thoroughly cleaned, disinfected, and whatever before she can use them again. So, it is going to sort of limit the amount of activities that music can do. And I would assume it will also limit the types and amounts of activities that PE can do.
Yes, thank you. And that's very important that we don't share the equipment, the computers, the crayons, just the numerous things that our children, our students were used to sharing in the classroom. Even like the water fountains are no longer can be used during this time. We'll have to cover up all of the water fountains in the hallways. The work itself, the students that bring in packets and so on, we need to be very aware and cognizant that everything that one student touches, it needs to be sanitized before being passed on to another. Which brings up another issue as we move in. I know that teachers and principals are talking about starting off by teaching, taking plenty of time to walk through all of these in real life in the classroom, teaching students how to wash their hands, teaching students about which surfaces should be avoided, all those types of things. It's going to take a while, even now, how to keep the mask on properly, how to constantly be aware of your 6-foot distancing, those kind of things. We're going to have to invest too in the best way we can. If we have, if we have 500 students, as a kind of a real life extreme example, the best case scenario would be having 500 recorders, right? So we need to think about those and not take anything off the table, because we do want to have the ideal situation, even if it's not the perfect situation. We want to have the ideal. Okay, Ms. Du Bois, is there anything else?
No, that is all, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Yvonne Aragon?
Yes, thank you. I'm Yvonne Aragon, and I just have a question. Well, actually, I have two questions. We were given like a guide to go by as far as how many students could be in the class. Now, that number that we were given, does that include my assistant and myself, or is that in addition to? And then secondly, life happens and there could be a time when I have to be absent. Well, some of my kiddos are going to be online and some will be in the classroom. Am I at liberty to give out my password? Not that I want to, because if I have a sub in the classroom, I'm going to have to give out passwords so they can log on. What are we going to do with that? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there someone on the team that wants to answer that?
Sure.
Renee?
This is Vance Lee, Director of Facilities. On your first question, the number of students allowed in the class include all persons? No, it's my understanding from the documentation that was provided to me, which in turn got to y'all in classrooms, was that is a minimum number of, or the maximum number of students that can be in a classroom. Now, with regards to, we still have to keep in mind that the teacher and an aide in that teacher will still have to socially distance. So we'll have to we'll have to work around those situations, whether it's the 6-foot limitation or if we have to do some shielding because of that. But that number was based on number of students that can be in a room.
And there was, to add to that, I think part of your question is, we still got to work through those types of things. I know that there will be times when teachers have to be out and we will have a sub, and that's part of the school site planning. You know, I'm sure you'd have to leave your lesson plans. You have to discuss with your principal about, you know, how to open up for the students. Passwords and so on will be a concern. But I think that's a doable situation. And Ms. Renee, I think you have something to add.
Yes, sir. Sorry to interrupt, but the sub question, subs are being trained how to run a Google Classroom, and there will be a sub password as they enter your classroom. You will not have to give out any passwords for the subs or co-teachers, but they'll be added to your co-teaching and using their own login.
Okay,
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Is there anything else, Yvonne?
No, sir, thank you for answering those. Thank you.
Okay, Megan Shaw.
Hello, thank you so much for taking my question. My question is in relation to ancillary staff. I'm an ancillary provider. And so I was just wondering, when it comes to the hybrid schedule, how will ancillary services be expected to respond, especially when we're sharing spaces with OT, PT, speech, rec therapy? What are some things that ancillary staff are going to need to be able to do in terms of flexibility with both online and in-person modalities?
Okay, Ms. Jones, Delise, are you on?
Yes, sir. So Megan, we will be working individually with each school, and we will be making individual plans for each school. So in some cases where there's only a need for a specific ancillary person to be at a school for 1 day a week, then obviously we could, with the 4 days that the students would be there, we could work that out. As I've talked to you guys before, at the beginning of the school year concerning the hybrid model, we have to be cognizant that when the students are at school, their main focus is going to be getting that live teacher instruction. And so we're going to have to be working all of those things out, but it'll be on an individual school basis, depending on the number of students, the grade levels that those students are in, and all of those types of things. But when we get to that place, we will be working it out.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Ms. Janaya Chavez.
Hello. So my question is kind of going back to the PPE. I think it's great that we're going to have access to PPE and the thermometers and things to take temperatures. I guess what I want to know is what kind of procedure will be in place in case we run out for whatever reason. Sometimes things happen, batteries die, maybe the thermometer's not working that day. Just maybe having a plan for those like things that can happen. What would we do in the case that we run out of masks for staff or kids, or just materials for that day or week or whatever?
Ms. Hernandez, are you on?
I am. What school are you at, Ms. Travis? Whatever school you may be at, your health assistant has PPE in her office. You can talk to her. She also has a backup thermometer for you if you need one, just in case.
Awesome. Just checking, because things like batteries in the district, like that seems like such a small thing, but it seems like something that we could run out of, and not, just making sure we thought of it.
She also has batteries in her office.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'd like to add that we put a lot of supplies out there, and we will continue to continue to order as we get low. We don't want to wait till we run out. I know that Mr. Maldonado has been staying on top of that along with Ms. Hernandez and being sure that we're, because we know that there are times that may come where, and we've seen it already in other places, where if you don't stay on top of that, the demand is so high that the supply is short at times. So we're trying to keep a couple of steps ahead so that we make sure if you don't find it there, maybe find it at a neighboring school, going back to us working as a community. And we'll have some stock of supplies here at the district also. Who's that? Okay, Miss Lisa Cost.
Hi, thank you for all of the hard work that everyone has done. It's really incredible to think of the time that you all have put in. And I appreciate the opportunity to ask questions today. Thank you for that. My question is, if we become ill as we are working to serve our students, how will our health insurance, our sick days available to us, and even our life insurance, how will that be impacted, or will it be? What does that look like to you? Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Very good question. Mr. Toivanen, are you on?
Yes, sir, Mr. Pettis. Dwayne Toivanen, Director of Personnel. Ms. Cost, it really just depends on the individual and what kind of coverage they have. In the short term or the interim, if an employee is sick due to COVID related issues, then those are evaluated on a case-by-case basis, and there are avenues for leave and things like that while we determine the status and the wellness of the employee.
And Mr. Toivanen, there's as this world has changed, there are some options that the state has provided as far as certain types of leave and so on. We don't need to get into details, but I think if a staff member wants to get into a lot of those details, they could come and visit Mr. Toivanen at the HR office or give him a call for more specific information.
Certainly, we'd be happy to discuss, options for employees and also determine what benefits they have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bob Teneker, how are you?
Good afternoon or good evening. I'm sorry, I know it says Bob Teneker, but this is Luann Teneker, his wife. I do have a question for the school system. What kind of system is in place for contact tracing once children and teachers are back in school?
Thank you for the question. Ms. Hernandez?
Yes, we will be following the toolkit. The toolkit has a guideline and a step-by-step process in detail there, and we'll be following that as our guidance. And
we, just to give a generality, as Ms. Sonia Hernandez stated before, we have the toolkit, and we also have a process and protocols that's part of our reentry plan. And part of it, well, I think one of the most critical parts is once we find out, we consult with Department of Health within 4 hours. And they begin, we take as many notes as we can. The New Mexico Department of Health begins the formal and official contact tracing process. But they always come back to us and ask us, who has this person been in contact with? And so we have a variety of questions, options, protocols to follow. So that is in place. I think hopefully we don't have to use it much, but likely that we will.
For more information regarding the toolkit, it's actually available
on the district website under school reentry information. If you scroll down to the bottom, there will be a link to the NMPED toolkit.
Do you have anything else, Ms. Teneker?
No, thank you. And I'm actually looking at it right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Vanessa Calzada?
Good afternoon, and thank you for taking the time to listen and take questions. My main question is about going to work daily. They're going to be taking temperatures to enter into the building. My biggest concern is I know I might not have COVID, but I might have a temperature that morning. If I have a temperature, am I supposed to teach online, or does a substitute take over the classroom? My biggest concern is, do I have to have sub plans every single day available?
As far as sub plans, that's treated just as you would in a non-COVID environment. We should always have a set of plans ready.
Okay.
Now, as far as yes, if your temperature is above the 100.4, you will be asked to leave the building. And of course, you can teach from home if you're feeling up to it. And if you're not up to par and don't feel like you can give the students your best, then we would call in a sub.
So then my next thing is, am I good the next day, or do I need to have a follow-up by going to the health center here in town? What's the next steps?
So, and that again, it goes to a case by case, but I think if you have a temperature unanswered, that's a symptom of the COVID. Would probably ask that you go get tested.
There is actually we have a system whereby we will be monitoring those temperatures too, and protocols will be followed by appropriate individuals contact you probably and tell you the next steps that you need to take.
Yes, very good point. Yes, so you will be contacted by the district about your next steps. I hope that helps. Ms. Calzada, thank you.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Ms. Daniela Atencio.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. So since the board is the one making the decision for us to go back, I'm just curious on how active have they been in the reentry plan for each school. I understand each school will have somewhat of a different plan as far as their daily schedule, lunch schedules and that. And so I'm just curious, have they had the chance to talk with the principals and see all of that?
Thank you for the question. The way that it's set up and organized is we don't expect the board members to go to the school sites, but what we do is we bring the information up to them, and we have to gather the information and bring that to them. Board members aren't typically expected to be part of the working, the building, building the plans. That's out of their purview. But their job is to look at the plans that we present to them, look at the information and data that we present to them, and then their role is to make a decision. But they're not part of the building of the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Kincaid.
Ms. Kincaid, are you on?
Yes. So building on the question that we had a minute ago about a staff member having a temperature and not allowed to enter the building that day, if that happens and the staff member is sent home, and either, if the option then is for that staff member to teach from home, how will that then be communicated to those students that you're, instead of doing in-person instruction today, you're going to be virtual because your teacher is sick? Like how would that work exactly?
Well, I think my first thought is that you probably should have a sub there, or we would have a sub going, just as we would in the normal world. So the sub could take those students that are on campus, and you could teach from your home. And between the two of you, we should be able to have a pretty good setup.
Okay, thank you.
Miss Francine, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Can you hear me, Mr. Pettis?
Yes, we can.
Oh, wonderful. I just, again, want to say thank you repeatedly for all of the effort that you and the school board are making on behalf of all of the children in our district. It really is such an important job that you have right now, and not an easy one. So thank you and your board, your staff, everybody for trying to educate all of the children in our district. My question is twofold. Having followed a lot of the progress going on and looking at the hybrid situation, my question is regarding what is happening with the children if we do go 50% on Monday, Tuesday, 50% on Thursday, Friday. What are the children doing when they're not at school? And I know that you have talked about the EAs being able to help with, the teaching as far as being in the classroom at the time. But what is going to be happening with those kiddos when they're not back in school? Fingers crossed they get to be back in school.
Thank you, Francie. So the way that we've been looking at that is the 50% of those students coming on Monday, Tuesday, the group A, that means that the other 50%, the group B, if it's that amount, or all of the rest of the students will be online connected to that classroom. So, and then that goes back to, resolving those kind of issues. But in the most basic sense, that teacher will have group A on the screen and group A in person and group B on the screen.
Okay.
And on Thursday, Friday, that'll switch and they will have group B in person and group A on the screen. And of course, and there may be some schools, and I know that there's going to be some schools that are going to choose to have, and it depends on how many students and how many, what the configuration evolves to. But we very well may have some situation where one or two teachers are assigned totally virtual, where that allows for the other teachers to manage the other side a little bit more. So I hope that, yeah.
And in regarding that number, I know that you all have presented the information from the principals calling as many of their families at the schools as they could and looking at the numbers. You've been talking about how 50% of the families and children look like they want to go back in person and 50% want to stay home. Has there been any talk about letting that 50%, which I would hope meets the state and federal guidelines, go back Monday through Friday with those teachers that want to be back, and then perhaps allowing the faculty that doesn't feel comfortable going back to maybe take those families and students on 100% the virtual as long as they need to? Is that something that might be feasible?
Yes, and those things, Francie, are being discussed. In fact, we talked about that yesterday, and I think I talked to at least one principal this morning about that. Already come up is if a school has a very low number of students that choose to come back to the school, and you have very low numbers at the school and in the classrooms, can those students come on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday? Then that is, we're open to that.
Oh, great.
And we still haven't solidified whether we want, we kind of want to hang on to the sanitizing day.
Sure.
And a day for intervention, tutoring, extra support. So, but there, then again, this is the work that the principals, teachers, and staff are building in the next couple of weeks. Some are further along than others, but they're exactly the type of questions that they're coming to solutions with.
Fantastic. I appreciate, again, so much your time and effort and energy into looking at trying to get back all of the children that you possibly can as safely as possible for the whole district. And I know that that is a lot of moving parts. And so all of that effort is greatly appreciated, and certainly hope that we can get our kids back in school.
Yes. Thank you very much. And thank you for your help with the daycare, and we'll have to meet to continue our conversations about your support.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Ms. Nelda Smith.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for having this.
I think there you are.
Regarding having teachers, or children that show up with the temperature, it is kind of the nature of a disease that a symptom shows up long after the contact. So wouldn't it be logical to be treating this instance like the person that has the temperature has already contaminated the classroom, fellow students, staff members, etc., rather than saying, oh, they have a temperature, they have to go home today, now everything's okay? They've already contaminated everyone.
Yes, that's a good point. Mr. Lee, you might be able to add to this.
Yes, sir. And thank you for your question. And it is complicated. And it's a complicated situation when one person is in a space that shows signs or actually identifies positively for the disease. And basically, we're using a rule of 72 hours at a minimum. If a student or a staff member, for that matter, shows symptoms, then we're not only removing that student from that space, but we're removing the remainder of the students, and we're trying to get them in another space. And then we shut down that original space where it was identified, or even if it's multiple spaces, we would have to possibly shut part of a school down. It's even more complicated at the high school level where, down the road when we have students in the building and they have 7 different classes. So that's definitely something we're looking at, but I will tell you the basic idea is that not only is the student removed, but we try to relocate the remainder of the students and the teacher into another area and totally close that room down for a minimum of 72 hours before we even send custodians in to disinfect. The intent there is the 72 hours to allow the virus to weaken tremendously or even die itself.
Okay, so that being said, if you show up or someone else shows from your room shows up with a temperature, um, is everyone sent home immediately, or are you going to have a 72-hour wait to see if you get sick?
Not necessarily. Now, we've got some safeguards in place that we try to identify that before they get on the bus or before a student or a staff member ever comes in the building. But there could be situations where they felt fine when they showed up at school, didn't show symptoms, and then all of a sudden we have a situation where someone's showing symptoms after they've already entered the school. It's important that we maintain the safety of all of the students that have been in that space. And so we'll do what we feel is logical and necessary to ensure their safety. So we got two things going on there. We've got the student that's showing the symptoms, and then we've got the remainder of the students that we need to work on recovery with them to ensure that their instruction continues. But yeah, it is a concern, and it's a discussion that we have pretty regular.
Okay, it seems to me that people are in the classroom are going to be at risk, whether anybody is showing symptoms or not. If they have already got the contact, then they are spreading it before they show symptoms. And I think that is really something to consider when you're bringing kids back in, and when teachers are having to make contact with the students. You don't know who has had contact, and the temperature alone, it's not proof that you're not being infected.
Yes.
Thank you for your consideration.
And thank you, Ms. Smith. Those are very critical points that you're making. And those are the same type of issues that all the other districts in the state are struggling with. How do we make that better? It's not going to be perfect, but how can we make it better? So points well taken. We have another hand up.
Ms. Patricia Downing.
Ms. Patricia Downing.
Sorry, I was having a hard time getting unmuted. My question is in relation to non-traditional classrooms. I teach a CTE course at the high school, but this would relate to other classrooms like music and art and things like that as well. Are there considerations being made on how to set up our classrooms to maintain social distancing when more than half of my classroom space is taken up by kitchen equipment? And I'm sure with science classes and welding, woods, art, things like that, their classroom space is not conducive to the 6 feet apart. In order for me to have students 6 feet apart, I could only have 6 to 9 students in my classroom.
Yes, thank you for the question. Vance, I'll refer to you, but the state is not letting down on the 6 foot distancing. So if we stay in that classroom, you're right, 9 students would be the maximum until something changes. What I've heard discussed, I'm not saying that this is the answer, but we may have to think about, and then of course you have to move the students away from their equipment, but you might have to move them into a different space for, you move them a different place for the instruction, the direct instruction, and then you might have students move back in by the equipment in groups of 9. That's just one possible configuration. But again, it's another issue and it's another challenge. And I would expect that, you know, you working with the principal, when that time comes, would come to the best possible configuration for that. Vance, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Because we were, I was working with our custodians a couple of days, and we were trying to figure out how it would work in my classroom, and we just couldn't come up with an answer. So now we at least have something to start with.
Ms. Downing, this is Vance Lee, Director of Facilities. As we get closer to a time where we will be getting high school students in, we'll be developing plans, whether it's in the wood shop, the metal shop, your lab, any of the performing arts areas. We will definitely have a plan in place to either A, maintain social distance, or B, utilize shielding as much as possible. And then we'll work with Mr. Widener to try to schedule that in a way that we can be appropriate and safe and logical as we can. So we'll definitely work with you and help you however we can.
Okay,
thank you very much for that.
Miss Bonnie Gifford.
Hi there, it's Bonnie Gifford. I just have a question about our middle school and high school students. We have some teachers and staff that their children have been going to their work sites with them to have internet and access. When we do have kindergarten through sixth grade teachers going back to the classroom, and the kindergarten through sixth grade students are going to be on the hybrid model, those 7th through 12th grade students, are they going to be allowed to still go with their parents that are teachers to the classroom? Or are they not going to be allowed? What are we going to do with those 7th through 12th graders?
Again, these are areas where we're making some allowances only because we know that we have to make it work. There are no, the state will not come out and say, you know, you're allowed to do this, or because it's anytime a teacher is bringing their children to the classroom, that is intended as a short-term fix. And of course, you know, in our area here, we don't have available childcare. We know we have a lot of situations where if we don't do that, there's no other option. It just doesn't work. So we're leaning over as much as we can to not only for the secondary schools, but elementary. We want to treat everybody fairly. I think this goes back to work with your principal, try to find the best possible solution. And as you can tell, that we are here to go talk to you about the situation, talk to you and your principal about the situation, try and find something that's going to work. It's going back to the whole daycare issue. And ideally, we would have daycare at every school site, and we can just utilize that and not take care of that problem. But right now, there's because we have no daycare in the area, there is no long-term solution that I can see. So we will have to work with individuals. We have to work with individual schools. We have to work with individual principals and teachers like you.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Mr. Perez, just a process question. We are at the 5 o'clock mark, and I just want to remind you that we do have an option. If your question was not addressed here and you weren't able to ask, we can submit questions to the address that's on the screen right there for you. So my question to you, sir, is do you want to continue longer?
Thank you very much. I'm going to take one more question from Miss Janaya Chow. She's had her hand up for a while.
Thank you. My question is about recess, just because there's so much constructed time about the kids being on buses or sitting 6 feet apart. What does recess look like for our elementary school kids?
Are there any principals on that would like to make a suggestion here? I think Miss DeArmond, are you on? she on a co-host? She's not on. Miss Grego.
Oh, hold on, let me find Miss Grego.
Okay, I think that that might come better from a principal. I can't tell you while we're looking for a principal that we have discussed the sanitizing of the playground equipment in between recesses. We have to also keep the social distancing out there. That's very hard to do. I know it's easier said than done. You know, kids, they just like to jump on each other and hug each other and knock each other down. So we got some big challenges there.
Miss Grego's not.
Miss Grego, would you help us with that?
Sure. So I think we've talked about the playground issues and recess, because again, some of our schools have pre-K kids on up to 6th grade, and using the playground is a big part of the pre-K platform. So we've had discussions with the custodians about the frequency of spraying down the equipment. We've had discussions with some of the teachers about continuous hand washing when they go outside and then when they return from the playground. We've also had discussions about students will always be masked. And then when the smaller population of students out on the playgrounds at one time will absolutely support the social distancing. And it's just a bit of changing the mindset of the kids, where they're all bunched together. We just tell them, you know, we got to stay apart. If we're going to be on the swings, a little bit apart, the slides. So it's after the kids come in and we've watched them for a little while, we just have to communicate back and forth the protocols. And I think the students will adhere to everything that the teachers tell them. And then we go from there. But we do have things in place with the custodians to spray things down quite frequently.
Thank you, Ms. Grego, and I'm going to have Ms. DeArmond finish add her part to this, and then we'll start closing the session.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So I actually observed two different elementary school systems yesterday, and both were very effective. One did not use the playground equipment. Students were allowed to bring their own like little individual toy, and so that they could avoid having to spray down equipment because they were short custodial staff. The other school did allow the students to go play on it, and it was sanitized in between. Both worked very well. There were zones set up. For example, a first grade might go out together in the morning, but each teacher would have their own zone so as not to cross-contaminate within each other's classrooms. The kids would not cross paths. They would stay in their pod, so to speak. And then the minute they came back in, all students went straight to the restroom, washed hands. The one teacher I observed was very fanatical, and then also did a sprig of hand sanitizer in addition to the hand washing right after. But it was very effective. It looked like school. Kids were playing. They were having a great time. And there were social distancing markers all over the playgrounds at both of those schools with either paint on the little circles of paint on the blacktop or concrete, whatever, and also on the walls and different places. So when they were told to line up, they were lined up, and they went to their little marker, and they were 6 feet apart.
Thank you, Ms. DeArmond. Appreciate that. And I'd like to thank everybody that's been on right now today. Just in closing, we'll bring this to the board on Tuesday, and then the decisions made, it'll start on the 19th. Be assured that even though we have some time between now and the 19th, we'll continue to refine the work that we're doing. We'll continue to search for answers for all the details, and we will we'll be prepared as we possibly can. So none of us would ever ask for being in a pandemic. We are in the midst and middle of one, but couldn't ask for being in a pandemic with a better group and a better community. Appreciate the way everybody's working together through this. We're going to be okay. We're doing better, and we'll continue to do better. Thank you, everyone.